Afternoon, everyone. The lunch is still sinking in. Huh? Good. I think Projit made a very good point. We're saying that when you talk about culture, we're probably overstating the obvious, but strange enough, what has become, the way the world is changing, and all the different presentations I've attended, a lot of them talking about technology, new media, the digital age. It almost seems like we need to go back and state the obvious again. And the obvious is, I think one of the presenters said in the morning, one of the obvious things that we are still human beings. It almost seems obvious to say we are human beings, but with time, with technology, all of us have our Android phones or Apples. Few of us are left with BlackBerry. And that has sort of become the center. So it's almost that we need to change. This is my second time in India, and something always amazes me, and it's something I have to say. I think the image you have up there for me defines why I keep on coming back, and I'd like to keep on coming back to this part of the world, because there's something happening here that the rest of the world needs to look at. Those two brands are, where are those two brands from? The brands you can see up there. Who owns those brands? They're Indian brands. Eh? They are Indian brands. That's Jaguar, Land Rover. Who owns the two? Ah, good. I knew that would wake people up. So, and that's almost like the world has turned upside down, because India, which in many instances people would see fine, maybe it's not a first world country per se, actually owns these brands. And there's actually a direct correlation between owning global or world-class brands and being the world leader. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the different brand rankings, who's the most valuable. I think we said Apple has a value of, one particular entity says 2 billion, 200 billion. Another one says 100 billion. Keep that aside. The point that is true, regardless of who you believe in terms of brand ranking or brand valuation, regardless of who you believe, it's a fact that should you own the most valuable brands, you will be the more prosperous country. The US is the most prosperous in my opinion, because it has over 50, if you use the Interbrands table, of the top brands. So we're going somewhere, and I think that's an important point to mention in terms of why it's good for such a forum, and look at it from a point of view, look at it from a different point of view, and we'd like to look at it from a point of view of culture. Let's try and frame the cultural issue. The thing about culture is it's deeper than many of us think. It's deep because even as technology comes, many things change. We say eventually we are all human. It's something we need to frame, look at, understand. Sometimes actually not understand, just take it in and see this is who we are. And let me try and frame the different issues from an African perspective. What I'll do is, I've divided what I'm looking at into three. I'll give you 3 points, 3 examples from the 3 different parts of Africa. When you say 3, you're probably thinking the compass has 4. When a lot of people, when they look at Africa and trying to market into Africa, most of the time we look at, and I can see smiles from somebody from South Africa, we look at South Africa, we look at Sub-Saharan Africa, which is Eastern Central, and we look at West Africa. So those are the 3 I'll give examples of certain, you can talk about culture for a long time. So I'll try and limit it to 3 different examples, 3 different aspects I find useful, which would be good for you to look at and see, should you be marketing or trying to build a brand in Africa? Maybe those are some of the examples, and there are many others we can communicate after this, of how those aspects and how certain brands have been able to latch onto that and actually become very successful by latching onto those particular aspects of culture. And those who fail to do that, whether they're global brands or local brands in Africa, have actually not managed to succeed. Because culture is still a very, very important thing, even as the world becomes flat, as we say. At the same time, culture doesn't change, because in a deep way, that's what makes us human. So let's zoom deeper and try and see who we really are. And who we really are, to a big extent, is a function of what we have around us. And that's critical, especially in Africa, where culture is still a very important thing.